Welcome learners to this mini lecture on two sections of Mumford's Techniques and Civilization. This mini lecture will cover pages 242 and 250, which encompasses section 8, the new permanent record, and section 9, light and life. As we look at the new permanent record, Mumford talks about some of the new forms of permanent record that were used, such as the camera, the phonograph, and the motion pictures, moving pictures. And he talks about how these forms were used for amusement at first, and then eventually were adapted for uses in science. Found it kind of interesting, just making a comparison to email, which has become a source of, I guess, permanent record in since the 1990s, in our society. And this comparison just popped into my head concerning email. Whereas the forms Mumford was talking about were used for amusement first, then science. Email actually was used by scientists first to communicate around the country, as I'm sure most of you are aware, and then kind of used for amusement. Even though we do use it for business today, it's also a little bit of a I guess, frivolous use at times. So kind of interesting, and I think this section, as many in this neo-technique phase, many of these sections are very, I guess, appropriate for our modern times, and I think going to provide you some nice source of information as you get ready to write your description of the technological complex that we're currently in. So we look at some of these new forms of permanent record, look at their effects on society. We already talked about how they were used for science. But they also, it was a preservation. Picture's worth 1,000 words, and very succinct and descriptive. And the other thing is the permanence. Just making things permanent. So two other effects on society there. As we look at think back to the EO-technique phase, we talked about the mirror and how when humans started to be able to look in a mirror, that changed their perception of themselves. It also allowed them maybe to be a little introspective, to realize maybe a little more about themselves. The neo-technique phase with the camera, the phonograph, and the motion pictures, you have more of a sense of a public world, more of a sense of, or an awareness or a consciousness of, what do I look like to the rest of these folks? So how am I appearing right now? So I guess more psychological than anything else, but has an effect on society. So we look at light and life. This neo-technique phase was a contrast to the paleo-technique world. That whereas the paleo-technique world was dark, blurry, foggy, smoggy, a lot of pollution, this neo-technique world, I guess the metaphor would be light. Light shining on every part of the neo-technique world, and really it's metaphorically or figuratively, but also literally. And the other interesting fact here is that really this is the first time that machines start to become an ally of life, rather than the enemy of life as they were in the paleo-technique phase. Some of the attributes of this neo-technique regime: mathematical accuracy. One that was interesting here was physical economy. And if you look at economy as being thrifty management, frugality in the expenditure or consumption of something, if we put labor in there, thrifty management, frugality in the expenditure or consumption of labor. Interesting. The paleo-technique phase would have been the exact opposite of physical economy. It was burn them up as fast as we can bring them in, and we'll replace them with someone. So that physical economy is, I think, an advance also, besides an attribute. Chemical purity and surgical cleanliness. And the fact was that these four areas really permeated throughout life, throughout society. When you think about physical economy, I think we're always looking for a quicker way to do something, an easier way to do something, and so on. And so, I think as we have gotten to our current day, I think that all of these areas have been, I guess, improved and still would be important attributes of our present society. So, in summary, during the Neotechnic phase, new forms of permanent record were developed that impacted society. Also, during this time, there was more of a focus on light and life, both figuratively and literally. As always, make sure to complete the activities and the essay questions corresponding with this mini lecture. There will be 2 essay questions, one for each section, 2 activities, one for each section. So make sure you complete those. And thank you for watching this mini lecture. Have a good day.